I've created this table in this video to help you understand which type of graph would be appropriate. It is all centered around the type of data we're working with, whether it's qualitative, word categories, or quantitative, numeric values. Notice that in terms of the scales of measurement, nominal and ordinal data are considered qualitative, whereas interval and ratio are considered quantitative. If we're working with qualitative data, then a bar graph would be appropriate. If we're working with quantitative data, then a histogram or polygon would be appropriate. Down here in the left corner, I have nominal data. These are names of countries. They are not ranked. And I have recognized that since these are word categories, we're working with qualitative data, nominal data, and therefore a bar graph would be appropriate where we have gaps in between these categories. These categories are distinctly different from one another. Here we have another type of bar graph referred to as a histogram, where these bars do not have gaps in between the categories or the intervals. And the reason being is that when you're working with numbers, we recognize that as one number ends, the next one begins. So here we have a series of 100 to 150, 150 to 200. So when the data that we're working with is numeric, we would use a histogram. Again, that's reinforced here by understanding that numeric values are quantitative. We could easily convert this into a polygon by finding the center of these intervals and placing a dot right in the center where the frequency meets the x value. Those would be our coordinates. Here I have 4 more graphs to show you. In the first example, I have nominal data, this type of pet that you might own. We recognize again that this is qualitative data. These are word categories, therefore a bar graph would be appropriate. The next one we have ordinal data. We have college standing from lowest to highest, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. And it's also qualitative data, so a bar graph would be appropriate. Down here in the left lower corner, we have numeric values expressed on the x-axis. In fact, we're looking at IQ scores. IQ scores are an example of interval data. Since it's quantitative, then we could express this as a polygon or a histogram. We could convert this to histogram by just creating these bars where those points would be the center. And then finally, in this example, we have height expressed in centimeters. This graph illustrates that this data could be expressed using a line graph, a polygon, or a histogram. So the values on the x-axis are numeric, so we recognize that this data is quantitative, and as a result, we can apply either a histogram or a polygon to illustrate our data visually. So again, I think what would be helpful is to remember that bar graphs require qualitative data, and a histogram and polygon can be applied to quantitative data.